And welcome everyone to
Enjoy the show.
Hosted by yours truly.
What just happened?
I don't know, man.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Arturo.
And I am Billy. No,
We're
just
back
kidding.
again. So we literally just recorded back-to-back episodes. This is being our back-to-back episode. I felt like a change of attire was appropriate.
Yes.
As you can see here at a distance, you see Michael Myers from Halloween 2. And because today's topic, Billy, is...
The horror films that we discovered that got us into horror.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. And this is going to be fun because I don't feel like have discussed it before.
We haven't had this conversation. I've talked about it with a couple of people, but
Definitely.
we haven't had this conversation.
Yeah.
It's kind of a spontaneous topic. Nothing is scripted.
Yeah, so this is going to be...
Just an organic conversation, yeah.
So, with that being said, Arturo, what was the first horror movie you ever saw?
Okay, so the first horror movie has to be, or at least by the earliest memory I have of anything, is Dracula, 1931.
Wow.
That's my first exposure to anything as far as I can remember as a kid. I was dressed up as Dracula for my first Halloween costume when I was
Okay.
2. My mom made the cape.
Wow.
Like sewed it together and the little cummerbund, and apparently I was wearing a white shirt, and like they drew in like a super deep widow's peak with like eyeliner or whatever. But my mom recently found that costume again, or the cape, just
wow.
going through some stuff, and now it's gonna belong to my son.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so cute.
I want to dress him up in it when he's 2. But yeah, that's my first memory of a movie per se. But my first exposure to horror as a whole was actually the music video to Michael Jackson's Thriller. I remember watching it in my parents' house in Mexico, and back on beta, good old days.
Wow.
And it was like the whole the 14-minute long like short film basically, but it also had like the behind the scenes, like a documentary almost attached with it. And I remember being kind of scared as a kid, and my mom being like, no, it's okay, this and that, blah blah blah. And then seeing the behind the scenes, I'm like, oh wait, like this is movie magic. Like this is people's hard work. Like this is makeup, this is prosthetics, this is choreography.
Yeah.
You know, these creatures aren't necessarily real. This is a movie. And that really fucking like honestly like developed my love for it, but also strengthened the fact that I was never scared of horror movies as a kid, which I know is a thing for a lot of people. Even people that are older, teenagers and such. I know a lot of people's experiences were not as smooth as mine, but it also really helped me have a fascination for horror, not get scared, and almost kind of desensitized me to a certain extent.
Lucky you.
And I know your first experience was something nearly the opposite. I think from what I've caught here and there, if I remember correctly. Now that I said this out loud, I'm like, oh shit, I think I do remember your first encounter with horror.
Yeah, my first horror movie that I ever saw, to my recollection that I can remember, was Freddy vs. Jason. And now I was probably 14, maybe 15. That's a lot. That's a late bloomer.
I mean, well, that's a big film in the sense, like, I do feel a lot of people that weren't necessarily into horror at a young age, I feel like that was a film that a lot of people got into because it was this bigger than life film. I mean, it was the Avengers of back then, if you think about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like these 2 different characters from different studios, even, and the deal they made, blah blah blah, whatever. Anywho, having them face off in a film, like everyone was talking about it, and having that be your first film in that time frame, I think is actually kind of pretty fucking cool.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was so. I was too young, obviously, to go see it in the movie theaters. My friends had all snuck into the movie theaters and all that type of stuff, and I wasn't one to do that when I was younger. I didn't like sneaking in movie theaters because I didn't like the idea of getting caught. I just didn't want to deal with that, so I never did that. So what I did was even worse, and I pirated it off of Kazaa.
I love that.
So I downloaded it off Kazaa, and I watched it on we had like this bonus room in my house, and we had like the computer room essentially where we played like video games and stuff like that in the house.
How was the quality?
It was shot on a video camera.
Oh, okay. Even then, okay, because I wanted to double check the time, the year it came out. By the way, that's what I was doing. I wasn't texting.
2004,
it was 2003.
2003. Okay,
yeah. So it is the heyday of all the illegal downloads.
Yeah.
And
so I
giving your computer a virus.
I must have been at least a freshman in high school then. So at least 14 years old. Yeah. So that being said, it was in that time frame or in that period of time where people would sneak in camcorders.
I mean, they still do.
Which is crazy.
I mean, it's easier now because people just use their phones.
Yeah, but like...
I mean, think of the work people put in back in the day. To lug a fucking camcorder back in the day, like, you had your whole...
I don't know how people got away with it.
Zoom lens and shit. Like, it was a lot
caught someone... When I used to work at the movie theater, I caught somebody doing it. I caught somebody recording. What did you do? I kicked them out.
Like, straight
up? I went up to them. I go, turn the camera off. Get the fuck out.
Nice.
I had to. Yeah. Yeah. But what's it called? So that's how I watched it. I watched it on my fucking old computer.
Achoo!
Dude, and it was... It's so funny you say that because, like, literally you could hear people screaming. You could hear people chewing their popcorn. So in that regard, I actually like kind of liked it that way because I felt like I was in the theater watching it. Now, some people were like, "Oh, it's so annoying," but I'm like, I was gonna say,
did it give you like almost like a safety net of sorts? Like it felt a little more like, okay, I'm here with people.
Yes, I understand. I watched it at home, but it gave me a sense of like I'm technically watching this with other people, and I like that. So,
dude, what if that's now a potentially untapped market?
What do you mean?
Like have like bootleg, but like because right now we're very much in the era I feel of like streaming, yes, but more of you're doing things with people online, like people are like playing video games and you're playing with them or watching it, you know, or there's viewing parties, you know. I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, so I'm gonna excuse that, but like or not pronounce it, when people eat and just hang out and talk.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a thing. So like, what if we're heading into this thing where, and I mean, I feel like this became a very common thing where after Spider-Man No Way Home, people were filming each other's reactions, you know, to Spidey showing up and Daredevil showing up and things happening. What if we get to a point where there is these HD versions of you sitting with other people and experiencing things with said movie theaters, like that version of a film?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and it feels like you're actually in the theater with everyone else type thing.
Well, I mean, now I guess the only way you could do that, and I did this when I saw Godzilla vs. Kong, a buddy of mine rented out a movie theater.
Oh fuck yeah!
So he rented out
that's a good movie to see on a movie theater.
Yeah. So he rented the auditorium for a certain showtime out, and anybody that wanted to come could. It was one of those open invite things. So
the fuck was my invite?
I was in Las Vegas at the time.
Fuck,
dude, come on! It was also a last minute invitation that I got. I didn't expect it. But also, I feel like that's the only way you can get away with doing something like that. Is like, yo, I rented this shit out. I'm gonna fucking do this.
I always wanted to do that too during
like
COVID time.
What?
I always wanted to do that too during COVID time, but I never.
Right. Yeah. But yeah. So that's how I saw Freddy versus Jason, and then the first horror movie I saw in the theater was Saw 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had worked at a movie theater at the time that movie came out, and 2005.
5.
Yeah, I was 17 years old at the time.
That's right, because I was 16, I think. No, 15 when the first film came out, so that makes sense. Yeah.
And I had not seen the first movie. I knew everything about it, but I had not seen the first one. So I went and saw the second one for my first like horror movie in the theater spectacle thing.
I saw the first Saw at like a church youth group hang.
Whoa, dude. Okay.
I remember that distinctly.
That must have been one interesting
it was
experience.
fun. I mean, this group was we all liked horror, and we still some of us still like hang out and talk, and we're still talking about horror movies, which I think is really uniquely awesome. But I remember none of us had seen it too. So like it was just this whole thing of like and this is the era of like, you know, renting DVDs and stuff.
Oh,
and I
God,
think we
yeah,
went to like
man.
Video One or something prior, but it's just like everyone's on the couch and everyone's all gripped tight. And see, that's the thing that I absolutely love about horror movies as a whole. And not to say that other genres don't do this, but like there's so much that goes into like the anticipation, the dread in the air, you know, the apprehension, and you're there with people, and it's like you're all kind of feeling the same thing. And yeah, you can get hyped up for, you know, a thriller, an action movie in a very similar sense. You know, you're screaming, you're hollering, you know, what have you. But I feel like it takes more to get you riled up for an action film than it does with horror if you do it right, you know. And it's just fun, and I mean, I've gotten to experience some horror movies with
I was
you.
about to say,
this
you
guy
know,
elbows
firsthand.
people, so it's just
I give you a
heads
dead
up.
arm.
He will do this and grab. So I
Yeah.
mean, but that's part of the experience, man. And I think that's what, you know, I think draws us to horror movies as a whole is this you know,
Yeah.
and there's something about it that's so much fun.
What would you say is your favorite horror movie that you've seen in the theaters? Like, what was your best experience?
Okay, well, let me make sure I understand that question correctly. Are we talking about the film I most enjoyed in theaters or my most memorable horror movie theater experience?
I guess your most memorable horror movie experience. Yeah, one that was like very lively, kind of like almost when you went to like the Avengers, and it was like that. And
So the thing that pops up, the memory that is most triggered was something incredibly memorable, which is in the sense that, I mean, I've seen a lot of great horror movies in theaters, but I think something that does take the cake because it had so many building factors to it was the first Paranormal Activity. So for those who might remember, Paranormal Activity was originally independently released. And it was like this tiny film that was like, I don't know, like it cost like 10 grand to make or something.
yeah, it was very small
And
budget.
it just had all of a sudden this really great word of mouth, and people were demanding it for it to be released in theaters. And at first there was only a handful. I remember there was one in LA and like this and that, blah, blah, blah. And it eventually got a wide release. But a lot of people were talking about it. And sorry, no, this was 2008. It had to have been.
It was.
It was 2008, yeah. And I remember where I was working at the time, a bunch of coworkers had decided we were going to go see it one night. And a bunch of us roll out. Some people bail. Some people, other people show up that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
But it ends up just being this equal number of dudes and girls. And as we're all watching the film, everyone just kind of latches onto someone.
Sure.
Because, you know, it's a scary movie. And the thing is,
movie's
the
terrifying.
entire theater was scared.
Oh god,
Everyone was gripped. There was so much apprehension in the air. Even though Blair Witch Project had come out just a few years prior, I feel like it was a lot of people's first time encounter in this theater with found footage
yeah.
style, you know, filming.
Yeah.
Where everything feels fucking real.
Dude,
you know?
I
And-
thought that for the longest time, both the Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity were like rumored to be real.
Yeah, and I think I think looking back at it, it's probably part of the marketing strategy, but I feel like there was this whole thing of it like, oh, you think it's a real story? Oh, and just kind of going with it and not actually addressing that it was fictional. You know, just kind of letting us, you know, get scared. I remember the entire theater was scared. Some people were leaving. And just because and I remember one guy yelled, "Fuck that!" and he took off.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the nervous laughter from the theater goers. But there was so much dread, so much anticipation in the air, the entire fucking movie. And as I mentioned earlier, like, you know, everyone was holding on to a friend at this point. And I remember at the very, very end of the movie, I guess spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but when Sarah throws Micah into the fucking camera and like you just fucking like jump and like what the fuck, dude? Did I have chips on my face this whole time?
No.
Oh, sorry. Totally ruined the anticipation of my story. But when she fucking launches him and we all fucking like flinch, you know, I flinched so fucking hard, but I didn't realize that with me flinching, I lifted my friend off her seat.
Oh my god.
And she was this tiny petite thing, so like it literally left her seat. I see her and she's fucking crying.
Oh
like,
my
just
god.
tears of pure fear because she was scared the entire movie, and then a fucking demon throws a dude into the camera, and she leapt off her seat.
Oh yeah, that must have been.
Yeah, that was rough. I felt really, really terrible. But then that stuck with me, and just the fear and anticipation. I remember getting home and just seeing the fucking, like, I just couldn't get comfortable. Knowing, because again, the way the movie was set up, my room was right by the fucking stairs.
Oh no.
Which is how the movie was set up. And I literally had to pull out my iPod from back in the day. And then it did have movies on it. This was that era.
Oh yeah.
So I watched Iron Man, The Dark Knight, and The Incredible Hulk until the fucking sunlight came up.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Like I remember legit having to watch those 3 movies back to back. And, oh, this is all 2008.
Yeah.
Because, dude, that shit was fucking terrifying. So that's definitely, like, I'd say one of the most... It is, I'd say, one of the most memorable experiences with a horror movie. Mm-hmm. But I've also had a handful of really good experiences and seen some really crazy shit. The Conjuring scared me a lot in a great way. Not since Paranormal Activity had been scared like that. And prior to Paranormal Activity, I can't even remember anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think that one takes a cake for me for sure.
Dang. That's a good one. I worked at the movie theaters when Paranormal Activity came out. Let me tell you something.
I was gonna say, how was that?
Well, and let me just say this. I had never seen Paranormal Activity in full when I worked at the movie theaters. I was terrified of that movie. There was no way in fuck I was going to see that movie.
How long after, real quick, sorry, did you watch it?
The first time I ever watched it actually was 2 years ago. When we were all in quarantine and we weren't fucking going anywhere and everybody was watching movies and shit. It was Halloween 2020.
Season.
And or it was the summer before or something like that. We were still in quarantine, regardless of the fact. We were still in quarantine, and I remember we were talking about movies we had never seen before, and that was a time where I was really diving into movies I had never seen before, and we were talking about horror movies, and everyone's like, "Oh, Billy, have you ever seen Paranormal Activity?" I'm like, "Actually, no, I never have," and everyone's like, "We're watching it right now," and I'm like, "All right, dude, I guess," and so. Watched it. I was absolutely fucking terrified of that movie. And to your point, yeah, like it was very hard to sleep after watching that movie. But I do remember working at the theater. We would, if you were cleaning out the theaters, if you ever watched the credits of Paranormal Activity in the theaters, all you heard was,
oh fuck!
That you heard the sub rumble.
Yeah.
Because
that's creepy.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember it from like whenever the demon or like the entity would be around you, you would feel it. You would feel it.
I mean, see, that's one of the things that I thought was so awesome about that film is that the sound was like so deafening and so terrifying, more than so what you were watching on the TV. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Like, yeah. Oof. So, and there were times when the movies, like at that time when it came out, I don't exactly remember what month it came out in, but there were nights when it was a slow night at the movie theaters and it would be during the week and there would be like fucking 3 people or 2 people in that movie. And I would just have to fucking sweep up the fucking floor by myself. And all I heard was... And that was all you heard for like 3 minutes while the credits rolled. And let me tell you something. I have never cleaned theaters as fast as I did when I would clean out the theaters for Paranormal Activity.
Dude,
it was absolutely fucking terrifying. Yeah. Because I had cleaned out the theater so many times. But I am such a fucking wuss that I'm like, oh, the demon's in here. Like I just thought that. And there was a theater that claimed to have been haunted in the theater that I worked.
Oh,
Theater
nice.
12. Theater 12. And guess where Paranormal Activity was being shown in? Theater 12. Fucking 12. So
not Theater 13.
You would think that it would be Theater 13, but dude, there have been times when there were people swore that they saw something, heard something in Theater 12. Multiple customers.
What movie theater is this?
The one in Aliso Viejo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to catch a movie in this.
I mean, if you see a horror movie in that theater, like, see if it's in Theater 12. Dude, I swear, I mean, I've heard things. I have heard little things here and there, and it's fucking terrifying, man.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like I was not having it. But
let's have another episode to discuss horror, ghost stories.
Sure. Oh, definitely. That'd be fun. I have a few of those.
And we'll do it with the lights off.
No, we won't. no, we absolutely fucking won't do that. But probably I would want to say my most memorable experience watching a horror film in the theaters was when I saw The Omen.
Oh shit.
The Omen in 2006.
How was that?
That was okay. Look, that movie is not necessarily, in retrospect, it's not that great. Mm-hmm. I watched it recently, and I'm like, oh, this movie is a lot worse than I remembered it. But when I saw it in the theater, it was one of those movies where people were like, oh shit. And when someone would die, people would be like, oh yeah. Oh, you want to know what else was like that? Hostel.
Oh, okay.
Hostel was like that too. I remember working at the theater fucking during when that movie came out, and that was, jeez Louise, man. That was something else.
I have never finished watching Hostel.
It is. It's understandably, I can understand.
Well, here's actually the interesting thing is it's not necessarily because we chose to. It's because the first time I ever saw it, the only time partially, was only like the first like 10-ish minutes because we watched it in class. My senior year. From what I remember, because I had a film class and which was awesome. Miss Jones, she was dope. And I got to learn a lot of classic cinema. I saw Nosferatu there, which was really great.
Oh wow!
One of the OG horror movies ever, arguably just the second in existence. But anywho, and at the very end of like the year, that whole week, because we were already taking like our final exams or whatever. Miss Jones let us just bring in movies for us, like, and we were allowed to bring in whatever movie we wanted.
Okay.
And for some reason, our whole group was very into horror, and it was great. We watched Resident Evil, and that was fine. She had no problem with that. And then someone brought Hostel, and about 10 minutes in, from what I remember, it's like a straight up sex scene.
Yeah, there's a sex scene. Yeah.
And then she comes out and she like turns on all the lights, and she's like, "Okay, we can't do this." And we're like, "No!" Everyone's screaming. And she's like, if the principal walked in right now, and then someone yelled out, "Fucking Daniel, the principal probably watches this." And she's like, and then without missing a beat, Ms. Jones like, regardless of what the principal may or may not do in their free time, does not mean she would be okay with us watching this here.
True.
And then I think we put on fucking, I can't remember what we put on, something. I don't remember what it was. Fuck. Now I'm mad that I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, that's not the point anymore. But the point is that that's all I got to see of Hostel, and I have never gone back to watch anything past.
Okay. You know? I mean, are you a fan of like that type of stuff?
I mean, from what I remember, that was very much the era. Like I remember loving Saw, the first Saw, and then Saw 2 was cool too, and then for Saw 3, it just felt like torture porn to me, and I was not into it. And I felt like Hostel fell into that category.
It did.
And I just wasn't about it.
And it was worse. It's pretty gruesome.
Like I never saw that. I just stopped watching the Saw films. I had heard about that from Hostel, so I never really want to go back. I never saw Human Centipede.
Oh God, no, me either.
Like for similar reasons. But that became that random era.
Yeah,
where all of a sudden that happened, and it wasn't until, which ironically, James Wan did the first Saw.
Yes, he did.
And then this kind of subgenre exploded, and then I feel like it wasn't until like Insidious came out that big name horror movies, I guess you could say, started coming more horror again.
I feel like Insidious was like kind of almost the catalyst of that. I feel like Paranormal Activity was kind of the catalyst of like.
Well, it's true too, because it came out roughly the same time.
I'm just because it was a couple of years later, but still, like I just mean, like, I feel like there was always this this love of horror films of that nature, but I feel like I don't know, man, because then you had movies like The Ring, Darkness Falls, The Grudge,
that was a whole thing in and of itself. Like there was all these Japanese remakes.
Yeah,
which is very much.
Have you seen Darkness Falls?
I don't think I have.
Ooh, man.
When you said Darkness Falls, all I thought about was Kill Switch Engage.
Yeah.
When darkness falls.
No. Okay, so Darkness Falls is a movie about essentially the Tooth Fairy.
Oh, fuck that.
And man, oh man, it is. That's all I'm gonna say to it.
There's too many excellent horror stories that are involved with the Tooth Fairy, so I'm like,
yeah, that one. But Darkness Falls is a pretty fucking good one, in my opinion.
Well, to me, it's just the idea that it's more of like someone could be creeping up in your room at night.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Man. Like I have trouble sleeping as it is. Well, see, that's the thing too. I mean, that's kind of ironic because like I feel like a lot of horror movies don't affect me the same way, but every now and again something gets under my skin. Something that I cannot do ever, is in my own home in the evening. I cannot watch a movie that takes place like in a haunted house.
Oh, sure, of course not.
I can't do that. Because then I have sense. Like every little creak and crack that I hear in my own home.
Dude. Oh, come on.
I just can't do that.
Of course, bro. Of course.
It's because I feel like, thank you. I appreciate that. That's the only thing I can't do. I can do it in the day. I can do it at someone else's house. I can do it in the theaters. I just can't do it in my own home.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can't do.
Yeah. And then another really fun horror movie experience was when I saw The Grudge 2. That was a really fun one.
You saw it in theaters?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah. I was very apprehensive too, because I didn't because of that fucking. I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. But that was one I saw actually multiple times in the theaters because I had a little bit. Oh, dude. Have you ever seen the movie Dead Silence? That's another James Wan.
Oh, hell
film.
yeah. I love that movie.
Fuck that movie. Like, I saw that movie when I worked at the theaters too, and I almost cried because of how scared I was during that movie.
That movie's incredible. If you haven't seen it, I feel like it flew under the radar a bit. I think it's very under radar.
Very under the radar.
Underrated as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the use of color in that movie.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of everything's very muted palettes, and then the red always is vibrant.
Red always popped out. I feel like the blues in that movie.
Yeah, it was on purpose. Yeah,
for sure. Also, I wanted to say on the note of that, when it was fucking silent in that movie, it was so quiet. Like, literally, like, because like I forgot exactly what the movie is, but it had something to do with the like a possessed ventriloquist doll, right? So whenever some shit was about to go down, you would hear it go, and then nothing. And it was fucking terrifying.
If you're watching this on headphones, like that was cool.
Like, fuck that movie, dude. Like, that movie scared the absolute shit out of me.
I love that movie. The twist too that I did not see coming.
I don't remember the twist.
Ooh, rewatch it. Let's rewatch it.
Okay.
Are there any straight up horror movies that you feel are, for example, because we are currently in the Halloween season, and this is a Halloween episode. I don't know if we mentioned that at the very beginning.
I don't think we did, but this is our Halloween episode. Yeah.
Are there any straight up horror movies? Because I know there's so much movies that we associate with the Halloween season and we'd love to watch. You know, some of them that do jump back and forth between, Sleepy Hollow, you can argue. It is a horror movie, but are there anything that's like a straight up horror that you need to watch during the Halloween season?
Freddy vs. Jason is one I watch.
Oh, really?
Year.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I haven't gotten around to it. I usually watch it like the week of Halloween, but since Halloween falls on like a Monday this year, I'm going to have to like watch it like very soon. So Freddy vs. Jason is one. Sleepy Hollow is always my Halloween night watch.
Hell yeah.
And then I'm trying to think. Usually I don't really have like strict movies besides those two that I watch during Halloween, because usually Halloween time, because I'm not really all that seasoned into horror movies, I usually watch horror movies I've never seen during the Halloween time.
That's
for that
cool.
reason.
I like that.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, obviously this year, The Nightmare Before Christmas and fucking
Hocus Pocus
were not scary movies, but they were Halloween themed movies I had never seen before.
There you go.
So, you know, like last year was The Exorcist and The Lost Boys, and the year before that was Silence of the Lambs, and I know there was another one that I had saw that I was really pleased that I finally got around to watching. I can't remember at the time, but you know,
I like that though. I like that you put it you bring it upon yourself to actually get around to watching films you hadn't seen.
Yeah.
You know?
I try
and it's
my
the perfect season for it. Too.
Yeah, I try my very best to at the very least. You know, The Addams Family is still a movie I haven't seen yet, and I probably should get around to it because I've heard that's a fantastic movie.
They're both fantastic, yeah.
I'm trying to think, but usually the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, I usually
With Jessica Biel.
I usually try to get around to watching that. If I don't, then I don't. But yeah, usually just like those ones. Yeah, I really don't. Besides Freddy vs. Jason and Sleepy Hollow, it's kind of it, honestly. Yeah.
Trick or Treat is one I.
Oh, great movie.
Yes, that I was gonna say if you hadn't, but then I remember you did.
I watched it with Tim the first time, like in 2010, 2009, 2010.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It came out in 2007, but it did not get a major release. It actually came out in theaters for the first time this year, ever.
Oh, really?
Yep.
It's getting a sequel, isn't it?
It's been talked about for the longest time. Michael Dougherty, the director, is really pushing for it. We'll see what happens. I feel like for a while it was just, he just needs to make Godzilla King of the Monsters, but then we haven't heard anything, and then every fucking year Spirit Halloween is covered by Trick or Treat merch, and Sam is everywhere. Little kid Sam, not you, Sam Curvin, but you're cool too. All
right.
But fucking I fucking love that movie, and it goes on every Halloween season for sure. And that's definitely one. That's one for me always. But I I feel like I sometimes watch that twice a Halloween season.
Yeah, and usually I'll watch like one of the Conjuring movies. Usually it's just the first one because that one is so fucking good. That. So another thing that where don't fucking do that. Just don't.
Have you seen the movie? You completely imagine the lights go off.
Stop it. I hate you. But here's what I will say, and I know that I've talked about my horror movie journey, but I've never really like dove into what it is. I don't think I've ever dove into it on the podcast before, so I'll briefly talk about it now. In 2018, I'm sure you remember this because you and Tim were the first people I talked about. Hey, starting now in October of 2018, I'm going to start watching horror movies I've never seen before. And you guys were so excited.
About the fucking time, yeah.
You guys were so excited. First horror movie I watched in that time frame was The Sixth Sense. I had never seen it before. I knew the spoiler. Obviously, everybody did. It was one of those things where you couldn't avoid it. But I went into that movie with the perspective of knowing the spoiler, seeing how it played out anyways. So...
How was that experience?
Incredible. Like, I'm sure if I wouldn't have known the spoiler, it would have been even more amazing. But having that perspective of like, oh, I know that Bruce Willis is dead. And I want to see like...
What? Spoiler alert!
I wanted to see like, well, how did they not know? And even when they kind of showed how it was like, showing like him being dead and how the other people didn't know he was there, it still was like, wow, like that's so cool. Yeah. Oh, to go back to my high school years, you were talking about how one of your high school classes you watched a bunch of horror movies in. In my sociology class, we watched The Village.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And
that's one of my favorites.
Dude, that is okay. That is a great M. Night Shyamalan film for sure.
Yeah, I fucking love it.
And
we're back. There were some technical difficulties for a little bit, but we are here and we are back, and we were discussing horror movies to watch during the Halloween season.
Definitely.
What are some? I mean, I feel like this is a separate. This is a separate episode, but I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
No, at some point, I want us to do an episode on Christmas horror movies.
Oh, see, yeah, and that is one area of horror that I am not familiar
with. Yeah.
Besides Black Christmas, that's it.
Then here's what we need to do. You, me, and Tim need to get together and watch a handful of them, and then do an episode.
All of
them. He is the holiday horror guy. Tim, I really hope you're listening. We've name dropped you like 8 times this episode.
Yeah, you've been on the podcast.
You have
times too.
And has he been on this one technically?
No, he hasn't.
Oh, but I just want to say, even though he technically may have not been.
No, he was. For Halloween Kills, he was on.
You're right.
Yeah, he was.
Right. And speaking of Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. There's a reason why we didn't cover it, and that's it.
Just say that's it.
That's it. That's all I got. But I am loving the horror movies we've gotten this year, and this is currently the Halloween season. We're not done watching Halloween horror movies as a whole. I have a list of films that I've been watching. I'm gonna watch. I know you have Sleepy Hollow as your Halloween movie, and I love that.
Always.
Trick or Treat, I guess, is mine, but it's more for the season. But I do feel like me and Mike are gonna watch Freaky on Halloween night.
Oh, dude, Freaky is so good.
Oh, so fucking good, and it's now like it belongs in the Halloween movie category.
Oh, absolutely. Vince Vaughn in that movie is so silly,
so fucking great.
That's like that is like not peak Vince Vaughn, but like that is like because Vince Vaughn hasn't been in anything comedy wise.
I feel like he hasn't been able to flex his comedic chops in a while, and he really did. Fucking flexed.
He really did
on steroids in this one.
Him playing like
a person
that is a
16-year-old girl.
A 16-year-old girl is wonderful.
Oh, it's so great.
And Catherine Newton was the good. And she's
really
great.
Good.
She was good.
I'm really excited to see her in the new Ant-Man movie.
Oh my god, yeah, dude, that's gonna be awesome.
Gonna be
she's
sick.
Cassie Lang, which is gonna be awesome, dude.
Fucking
and that's
dope.
gonna be a great movie.
Yeah.
I want to briefly, before we wrap it up, talking about all the movies that I had watched. I had watched like The Sixth Sense. And during that period of time, I was like texting you guys, I'm about to watch this movie. And I gave you guys like my play-by-play of all the movies that I watched in the group chat. And you guys, I would send probably like 50 text messages in our group chat. And you guys would just heart react every single one of them. And, you know, obviously, like, that's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
But I remember watching, like, 1978 Halloween. And I remember sending the title card to Tim, and Tim was like, "Yes, finally!"
Overjoyed,
and he was through the moon for that. I remember doing it when I watched all the Conjuring movies. I watched The Conjuring 2 with you and Tim in person. And I gave you guys both fucking dead arms because the movie scared the fuck out of me. Because Valak the Nun is so scary. She's so scary, dude. I see her in my nightmares sometimes. I'm probably gonna have a nightmare about her fucking tonight because I'm talking about her. Great, that's awesome.
Just don't walk down any hallways.
Luckily, I don't live where there's a long hallway. Thank God for that. You know, I remember when I watched Get Out for the first time. I remember texting you guys. I remember when I watched It Chapter 1. Same thing. That was a movie I was really hesitant about watching because I was like, "Yo, Pennywise looks fucking freaky. That's not going to be fun." But I love that movie. I love it so much. I'm trying to think. There were other ones I know for sure that I texted you guys about, but I can't remember.
Yeah, you're listening. Like films that I distinctly remember you reaching out to us about.
Yeah, and I just remember like.
I mean, it was a fucking cool ass era. Like I always love and I'm intrigued when friends get into things that you're into.
Yeah,
you know, and it's such a fucking awesome, rewarding feeling, and you get hyped about the same thing.
Yeah,
and, like, you know, it's this whole thing that's just fucking incredibly awesome. And
yeah,
I'm glad you finally got around to it, man.
Thank you. And you know, I still like. I love like when we can get together and talk about the new movies we've seen. Like we never got to talk about *Malignant*. Like I love *Malignant*.
We didn't. Yeah. Fuck, I love that too.
That was a great fucking.
Did
movie,
I not?
Man.
Yeah. I was fuck.
We were just that was a point in time where you just found out you were going to be a dad, so you kind of were like, you know,
shit, was it?
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, okay, because it did come out like
it came out in 2021.
Yeah, I remember it was on HBO Max.
It went straight to the HBO
No,
Max.
but I found out I was going to be a dad in. Oh no, shit, that's right. Damn, dude. Just today I was talking with Maya the fact that we found out she was pregnant in May. Like it's now a year and a half since we first found out. You know.
So like at that time, you know, it came out like what, September 2021, October 2021.
Yeah. So yeah,
that point in time, you were very focused on.
Yeah, and our baby shower was in October and stuff like that. And yeah. No, that makes sense. But no, Melinda was fucking awesome.
Yeah, there are so many movies that I just remember finally getting around to. Like the Conjuring franchise was one franchise I was like, I'm never gonna get around to that, and then I did. I'm like, I'm fucking so glad I did, because now I can watch all those movies and enjoy them and all that type of stuff, and we can talk about them and all that type of stuff. And I know that there are other classic.
And I feel like it's also giving you an appreciation for now films like Multiverse of Madness.
My God, yeah, like we can even talk. Like I've even talked to you about how the Spider-Man trilogy that Sam Raimi did were horror movies, or at least have horror movie elements.
So much of that, yes.
So much of it, especially in Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock.
The technicals alone, that's like the most horrifying thing
like
ever.
that woman scraping her fingernails on the ground, being pulled away into blackness. Like that is classic horror movie shit.
Oh yeah.
Like Sam Raimi, I never really like watching those movies. I never have seen The Evil Dead or any of those movies, but like I get to see like what his Drag Me to Hell, another fucking horror movie I saw in the theaters. Jesus Christ, that is a scary fucking movie. But you know, seeing the Multiverse of Madness, is seeing how Sam Raimi like really put his stamp in the MCU. It does make me appreciate filmmakers for who they are, because now I can look at a James Wan film and go, oh, that's totally him. I can look at a Sam Raimi film and go, oh yeah, that's totally him. I can look at oh my God, like an Ari Aster or a Robert Eggers, or, you know, and be like, oh, these are these filmmakers like putting their stamp.
Oh yeah,
Jordan Peele is the same way.
They have their own DNA for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Their own DNA is a great way to put it. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of other movies that I know we need to talk about, but we are unfortunately out of time, which is so sad because I love talking about this with you.
It's okay. Well, that just means we'll do a part 2.
Very excited because the Christmas horror movies, I know Tim definitely needs to be a part of that because he knows all of them.
Yeah, it's his go-to. It's his bread and butter. Everyone knows him for being the Halloween guy, but he's secretly the Christmas guy.
Oh, he is, for sure.
100%.
100%.
And I mean,
Tim, if you do watch this, I want to have him on to talk about our favorite, like just holiday Christmas movies.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm fucking down.
I want to do that so bad. I'm speaking into speaking it into existence.
Throwing it in the universe.
But if you are watching this on YouTube, I apologize for the technical difficulty. You are seeing a black screen. I don't know what's going on. I will get that fixed. I apologize. But make sure you're subscribed to YouTube, hit the bell. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. And, helps us out a lot. Really do appreciate that. Thank you guys for listening / watching. We'll see you next time.
This episode was brought to you by Dark Side Studios in Orange County, California.
Good night.